Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna be making some solid body butter or massage bars, you can call it as well. And as you can see, I have some new molds here that I got from a local store. They're actually meant to make some little cakes and I think they are just adorable. The reason why I'm using such small molds is because I'm making an advent calendar. So these body butters and other products will fit into it. Moving on to the ingredients that we will use today, this is shea butter. This one is unrefined. You can also use the refined version. Shea butter has high concentrations of fatty acid and vitamins and makes it an ideal ingredient for softening skin. Shea butter also has anti-inflammatory and healing properties. The next ingredient, and also the major one for this particular recipe here, is cocoa butter. And I like to use mine here in pellets because it's easier for me to handle and weigh out. Like other natural moisturizers, cocoa butter is mostly made up of fatty acids. These fats may help form a protective layer on the skin, preventing moisture from escaping and therefore stopping the skin from drying out. And our third ingredient is beeswax. The anti-inflammatory properties of beeswax encourage the healing of wounds. It is also protective, helping form a barrier between the skin and the environment without clogging pores. Further, beeswax is high in vitamin A, which has been found to support cell reconstruction and health. This particular beeswax here, you can see, is refined. I like to use the refined version because then it is neutral in scent. It doesn't have this specific honey scent to it, but you can of course also use the unrefined version, especially if you want to fragrance it in a sweet kind of honey type of fragrance. So we're going to weigh out our first and main ingredient, which is cocoa butter. You can see the handling is very easy when you use these small pellets here. And we're gonna need 250 grams. You will find, of course, the recipe down in the description box. And I'm also gonna show a way how you can resize a recipe according to the size that you want to make. And then the beeswax, we need 50 grams. I like to use a double boiler to melt down my butters, because I think it's a very gentle heat method, and that way I'm sure that I'm not overheating the ingredients and perhaps their properties get lost. So I'm combining beeswax and cocoa butter and let it melt down on low heat. You can of course also use a microwave, just use short increments. I add the shea butter once the other two ingredients are already melted, so the shea butter will melt on its own with the heat of the other ingredients. And then I'm gonna just let it melt on its own. Takes a little patience, but it's totally worth it because shea butter is very delicate and needs to be really melted down on very, very low heat. So you can see it goes quite fast. And in the meantime, I'm going to weigh out the fragrance oil. I'm using ultraviolet from scent perfique. It's a very nice unisex fragrance. And I think it's great because then men and women can use it. And depending on how strong you want to fragrance your bar, you can also call it a perfume bar. Sometimes it's a solid perfume at the same time. Then you can see with your supplier what is the recommended usage rate for it. I'm using quite strong here, I'm using 15 grams. Once the oils are completely melted, the oils in the wax in this case, you can add your fragrance oil to it. And an important step is here to make sure that it really combines very well with your other oils. Also the reason is it needs to adjust to the temperature because your fragrance oil is cold compared to the warm oils here. So you just want to give it a very good mix make sure that it really gets everywhere before you pour it. So I'm gonna take the molds here. I always use molds on a tray because that way you can easily move them away if you need your working space for something else. And I'm using a Pyrex jug, a glass container. I absolutely love it because the lip is made in such a way that you can pour easily. And that's very good, especially if you have such shallow, small molds. You want to make sure that you're not over pouring. So that makes it very, very easy. Also, another trick that I would like to share is if you see that your wax is cooling and sticking to the sides of your jug, then you can just take a heat gun and remelt it, and then you can just comfortably continue to pour. A little cleaning tip that makes your life easier is immediately after pouring, when your oils and waxes are still hot, wipe it down with kitchen paper. That makes your dishwashing much easier. And then all we need to do is to wait for 24 hours to unmold. So I just wanted to show you a little tip how you can resize a recipe, any recipe, if it is for a body butter or for anything else, except for soap, because for soap you need to run it through a lye calculator. But otherwise, I'm gonna take the same recipe that we used just now, which is 250 grams of cocoa butter, 50 grams of beeswax and 50 grams of shea butter. And this works also if you're using ounces, of course. And then in this particular case here, we used 50 grams of fragrance oil. But no matter what you are using, what you want to do is just adding all the grams that you're using for this particular recipe to find out what your entire batch size is. And in our case, our entire batch size is 365 grams. It means that 365 equals our 100% that we have for this particular case. So now, in order to find out what 1% is, of course, you have to divide it by 100. So if you just divide it by 100, your 1% will be 3.65. Okay, so now we are going to take our ingredients singularly and we are going to find out how many percentage it makes of the entire recipe. So you want to take the 250 grams, that is cocoa butter in this case, and you divide it by 3.65, which is 1%. So this will tell you that the cocoa butter in this recipe makes up 68, let's say 0.5% of the recipe. Next ingredient is the 50 grams of beeswax, and also for the shea butter, so it's the same thing. So you divide 50 by 3.65 and you have 13.6% of beeswax, as well as for shea butter. And you're gonna do the same for the fragrance oil as well. So 15 divided by 3.65, and this makes 4.1% of fragrance oil, which is almost the highest percentage that you should use, which is 5%. But we are still inside the range here. This is just as a side remark. Okay, so now let's move on and let's see. Let's say you want to hypothetically do a batch of 500 grams. You can do anything really, but this is just an example to make it easy for calculation. So you want to take the 500 grams, which is our new 100%, let's say, and we divide this 500 by 100. So your 1% in this case here is 5 grams. So now if you want to resize, you're just gonna take your percentage here. So cocoa butter was 68.5 and you want to multiply by 5, and then this tells you that in this case you need 342.5 grams of cocoa butter. And now you're gonna do the same with beeswax and shea butter. So 13.5 times 5, and this is your amount of beeswax that you will need, as well as shea butter. And then the fragrance oil, it was 4.1 times 5, 20.5. And now you have your new calculations for your new batch. I hope that this really helped. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the description box. Alright, and in the meantime, we are ready to unmold these little massage bars or body butters here. They are really cute, I think, and the color, I love this natural type of cocoa butter color here. And the way you use them is you let them melt a little bit in your fingers or your hands, and then you just slide it across your skin, and it's absolutely fantastic, especially in winter. So we're gonna unmold all of these. If you see that they are unmolding a little bit difficult, then you can just pop them in your fridge for an hour or so, and then they will come out even better. This silicone mold here is quite good, so I didn't need to do that, but sometimes it's good to do so. So here they are, all unmolded and ready for use. I like to keep them like 1 or 2 days to cure a little bit, and this helps. And then we can give them as a gift or use them for ourselves. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I also hope to see you around very soon for another one. And in the meantime, I wish you a wonderful day. Bye bye.